motion in your steps.
Motivation in your heart.
Hello, and welcome to today's Motion and Motivation podcast.
All right, so we're diving into Elon Musk this time. Isaacson's biography, man, there's a lot to unpack. I gotta say, even knowing a bit about Musk already, his childhood, kind of rough, wasn't it? Growing up in South Africa like that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Isaacson doesn't sugarcoat it. It's like, imagine going to a school, a Veld school, where they just throw kids out in the wilderness, tell them to compete. That's got to leave a mark.
Makes you wonder if that's where that whole resilience thing comes from, right? Like getting comfortable with risk, maybe that's rooted in those experiences.
It's fascinating. And it's not just the schoolyard stuff. Think about his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman. This guy was practically born adventurous, breaking horses, bartering chiropractic adjustments for food, roaming the Canadian plains, adventures practically in Musk's blood.
Okay, but even with adventurous genes, deciding to live with your dad at 10 years old, that's a big leap. How'd that move to Pretoria shape him, you think?
Well, it's complicated. Isaacson paints it as a mixed bag. His dad, Errol, definitely fostered Musk's love for tech, but their relationship, it was strained, difficult even. Looking back, Musk himself has said he regretted that decision.
So many layers already, right? Challenging family dynamics, a demanding environment.
Yeah.
It adds a whole other dimension to his story. But at least he had video games, right? Some escape.
And he wasn't just playing them, he was building them. Remember Blaster? Coded and sold the game at 13 years old.
Wait, 13? He was already coding when most kids were just figuring out how to use a joystick. What was Blaster all about anyway?
Picture this. You're in space, blasting away this alien freighter, right? It's loaded with weapons, classic space adventure stuff. He even got it featured in a PC magazine. For a teenager back then, that's huge.
It's wild, right? Building a game, getting it published, talk about ambition. But how does a kid coding Blaster in South Africa become, well, Elon Musk, Silicon Valley titan?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a straight shot to Silicon Valley. He taught himself to code, spent time in Canada, eventually landed in California. But before Tesla, before SpaceX, there was Zip2.
Zip2. Okay, gotta admit, that one's a little fuzzy for me. Remind me.
Think like the pre-Google Maps era. Musk and his brother Kimball, they created this online business directory, but with maps integrated. Sounds obvious now, but back then, revolutionary.
So he was already on that path of making information more accessible, something we see again and again with him.
Exactly. Zip2 might not be as famous as his later stuff, but it was a stepping stone. And selling it, that gave him the capital to really jump into, well, X.com.
Ah, X.com. The PayPal origin story. And from what I've heard, that was a wild ride even by Elon Musk standards.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Musk's vision for X.com was huge, like a whole online financial system. But big ambitions, they often come with growing pains, right? Especially after that merger with Confinity, Peter Thiel, and Max Lipton's company.
That's where we start hearing those stories about his, shall we say, intense management style, pushing people to the limit, that whole thing.
Yeah, Isaacson doesn't shy away from it. Sleeping under his desk at the office, setting crazy deadlines, driving his teams hard. It was a period of massive innovation, no doubt, but also a lot of friction. Makes you think how much of that was genuine passion, how much was just like, this is how he's wired.
You have to wonder about the human cost of ambition sometimes, for sure. And the irony is, he pours everything into X.com, and what happens? He gets ousted as CEO. Brutal.
Tough break, no question. But you know, sometimes those setbacks, they clarify things. And for Musk, that combined with something else Isaacson talks about, a near-death experience with malaria, it kind of refocused him.
Wait, malaria? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, he got a really bad case while traveling, ended up hospitalized, could have gone either way. And facing your own mortality, it changes you. For Musk, it brought this lifelong fascination with space back to the forefront.
And that's where SpaceX takes off, literally. But this wasn't just some childhood dream resurfacing, was it?
Oh no, this was different. He went to Russia with some friends, wanted to buy used rockets. The idea was to send something like a plant or something to Mars, just as a proof of concept.
Classic Musk. Even starting small means thinking huge EE.
But that trip, it was a turning point. He saw firsthand how slow, how expensive the space industry was. It just wasn't moving fast enough, not ambitious enough. And Isaacson writes about how, on the flight back, Musk's just scribbling numbers, figuring out how to build a better, cheaper rocket.
Wow. So from almost dying to scribbling rocket equations on a napkin, that's how SpaceX is born. What a pivot.
It really is. That frustration with how things were being done, it fueled this whole desire to disrupt, to make space accessible, not just for governments and billionaires. SpaceX was his answer.
Bold vision for sure. But SpaceX, it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? 3 failed launches early on. That's got to be tough, even for someone like Musk.
Oh, those early years were brutal. They didn't reach orbit until the fourth launch of the Falcon 1. It really shows you, though, Musk's not one to back down easily. And remember, all this is happening while Tesla is going through its own growing pains.
Right, it wasn't always smooth driving for Tesla, was it? What were the early days like? Did that government loan solve everything?
Not a chance. Honestly, reading Isaacson's account, it's amazing Tesla survived. Production delays, quality control, they were constantly on the verge of going under, and then there was production hell.
Production hell. That sounds rough, even for Musk. Wasn't he practically living at the factory?
Sleeping on the factory floor, meetings at all hours, micromanaging every detail of the Model 3 rollout. It was do-or-die time for Tesla, and Musk's management style, well, let's just say it was intense.
You can't argue with the results, though, can you? It makes you wonder, would Tesla be Tesla without that kind of drive at the top?
Good point. Disrupting industries takes more than a casual approach. But even with SpaceX and Tesla taking off, Musk's story doesn't end there. It gets even more complex when you factor in his personal life.
Okay, let's talk about that. Multiple marriages, a growing family, a son named X. What's Isaacson's take on that side of Elon Musk?
Isaacson shows us a man who, for all his genius, struggles with the personal side of things. It's like he wants connection, but those long-term relationships are hard.
Almost like his personal life became another challenge to overcome, with mixed results. And then there's that Twitter takeover. That felt seismic, even for Musk.
Definitely a turning point.
Yeah.
And Isaacson takes us behind the scenes, the initial investment, the chaos of those first days as CEO.
Huh.
Remember all the talk about free speech absolutism. Even Musk had to face the realities of content moderation, the messiness of social media.
It's been fascinating and a little unsettling watching it all unfold, but what I find really interesting is how Isaacson shows Musk's own internal struggles. The doubts, the exhaustion, those moments where it all seems overwhelming. It makes him human.
That's one of the best things about the book. It reminds us that even Elon Musk, he's not invincible.
Right. So what did we learn today? We've covered a lot, the triumphs, the setbacks, the sheer audacity of it all.
I think what strikes me is how unfinished Musk's story is. He's still shaking things up, pushing boundaries, all while grappling with his own contradictions.
That's what makes him so fascinating, isn't it? It's not just the rockets and electric cars, it's the man himself. What a deep dive. Thanks for joining me.